Before I can really tell you why everybody should jump on the clean energy train, we must first know exactly what clean energy is, the different types, and the advantages compared to the disadvantages. Clean energy is otherwise known as a renewable energy. Renewable energy is energy that is collected from resources which are naturally replenished on a human timescale, things such as sunlight, wind, rain, tides, waves, and geothermal heat. Renewable energy is natural. All energy sources are, after all. The coal, oil, and natural gas below the surface of the earth are as natural as the sunlight that warms the earth's surface, the trees that grow on it, and the water that flows through its rivers and oceans. Fossil fuels are the product of the long and natural conversion of animals and plants that have been concentrated and converted into a useful form over millennia. The difference between renewable energy and the fossil fuels listed above is the timescale it takes to produce that energy. Both renewable and fossil energy sources must be converted from their natural form into a useful state to heat or cool air, water, food, and other things, or to set it in motion vehicles and machines. Next, I'm going to tell you a little bit about three of the most common types of natural energy. Probably the most common type we see is wind power. Have you ever driven by those huge windmills and wonder what exactly it is that they do? These giant windmills usually have two or three giant propellers on them that are forced into motion by wind. And this motion is a mechanical energy. Next, this mechanical energy is converted into electrical energy and stored. The next type of energy is I want to discuss is hydroelectric. This type of energy works almost the same exact way as windmills, except instead of wind spinning the turbines, water spins them. Last but certainly not least, we have solar power. Solar power uses energy from the sun as thermal energy or by using photovoltaic cells in solar panels and transparent photovoltaic glass to make electricity. Zero carbon power sources such as solar, wind, hydroelectric, and nuclear power will need to grow rapidly to the point where they supply most of the world's electricity by the middle of the century. The advantages for clean energy far outweigh the disadvantages. One of the biggest advantages of clean energy is that the supply is almost limitless and is constantly being replenished during our own lifetimes. The clean energy field will create a substantial number of new jobs. The increase in the jobs created compared to the business as usual scenario will start around 200,000 jobs per year in 2016 to 2020 and rise to 800,000 a year in the year 2046 to 2050. Another advantage is that it takes less human intervention to make this type of power. The problem with renewable resources is that they are, on average, harder to transport and harder to store than fossil fuel resources. They also take a lot of space and a lot of money to build. But in a world that is growing ever larger, I believe that in the coming years, we're going to need to use as much of these clean energies as possible. The next topic I'd like to discuss is global warming. Global warming is often referred to as climate change. Global warming refers to the recent and ongoing rise in global average temperature near the Earth's surface. It is caused mostly by increasing concentrations of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. What does this mean? Well, pollution pretty much sums that up. People often think that the atmosphere as being a uniform layer of air that surrounds the planet, but this is not the case. Instead, the atmosphere is made up of several different layers marked by changing in the temperature. We are polluting our atmosphere with these greenhouse gases. A greenhouse gas is a gas that contributes to the greenhouse effect by absorbing infrared radiation. Some prime examples are carbon dioxide, methane, and chlorofluorocarbon. The United States has reduced its carbon print more in the past years than any other country in the world. Human greenhouse gas pollution in our atmosphere has been increasing for as long as we have been advancing as a civilization. Power plants, residual buildings, and vehicle emissions are the three biggest producers of greenhouse gases. Power plants do the most damage to our atmosphere by far. A new method has recently gained popularity. It's a method known as fracking, and it is said to have been the reason the nation's reduction in their carbon print. But recent studies show that almost all the progress that was made on our carbon imprint has been lost due to methane leaking from these fracking sites. Generating electricity by burning fuels like coal, natural gas, and oil accounts for at least 1/4 of all global emission. But is global warming really a concerning issue for our lifetime? This past decade has been the hottest since records began. That's not in dispute. However, the average surface temperature of the planet seems to have increased far more slowly over this period than it did over the previous decades. The rate of warming was just 0.04 degrees Celsius per decade from 1998 to 2012, significantly lower than the 0.11 degrees Celsius warming per decade since 1951. As you can see from the text above, the warming is very slow and indicates that we must be doing something right in order to achieve these kinds of lowered numbers. 13 of the hottest years on record occurred during the last 15 years. Humans need to, and I believe that they will, unite in order to find the best way to stop the warming of the Earth's surface. I personally do not believe in any of the hype about global warming or climate change for 3 simple reasons. 1. The Earth and humans have been around for a very long time, and if the number for the rate the Earth is warming is getting smaller, that indicates that we must be doing something right to help our environment. 2. The use of clean energies now and in the coming years will be prevalent in order to keeping these numbers down. These clean energies emit less than half the greenhouse gases than any of your standard fossil fuels, and we will never run out of these energies. 3. We live in a world where remarkable technology coupled with the brilliant minds of today's scholars have solved almost every single issue that we've run into as of yet. And finally, I will be discussing the war on coal. The war on coal is an effort put together by the Obama administration to drastically cut down coal consumption and find alternative ways to make electricity. Now let us get a background on coal. Coal is a combustible black or dark brown rock consisting mainly of carbonized plant matter, found mainly in underground deposits and widely used as a fuel form of electricity. I agree with the Obama administration on cutting down the use of coal, especially when we have clean energies that we can literally never run out of. Throughout my presentation, you might have get the hint that I'm all about going green. And if you got that hint, you would be right. I believe that there is no time like the present to stand up and join this movement. After all, Mother Nature is the reason we're all here. Why not treat her with some respect? If the people of our nation and the people all over the world don't stand together and try to combat these problems, our kids might not get to enjoy the luxuries that we have enjoyed in our lifetimes.